Right, guys, we're back. So sorry. I have no idea what happened. I think the internet dropped out. I think that's as simple as that. I get a little indication on the system here where if the stream button shows green, then we're all good, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden it just started flashing red, which makes me think that the internet dropped out. So, guys, I'm really, really sorry. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset and I'm going to bring you the Brian interview from the top, and then we'll continue on with the rest of the show. So I am very, very sorry about all of that. Jeez, you have no idea how annoying that is. Right, let's get back on with Brian. If you're joining me, this is just a refresher. So Brian Irvine, former Aberdeen defender, recently took a charity trip to Malawi in Africa, where we did a number of different initiatives. And I decided to get him on, have a little chat about it. And it's a very humbling interview. So I really, really hope you enjoy it. He went with a company called Team Up, who are based in Canada. And here he is telling me about his experiences. Hi, Brian. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on because I know you have to run to work in just a wee while. First of all, let me ask you about Malawi. What took you over there?
Good question, Ali. What took me? I used to ask that, but it was wonderful when I was there. I thought, what? This is almost like a surreal experience, a dream. I'd never been to Africa before, and it was a connection with someone that I'd done some coaching in the summer in Canada with.
Okay.
That had suggested that he takes a group of Canadian coaches over to Malawi in the winter, and he'd love me to go with them this winter. So this was in August when I was in Canada, when we did the coaching in Chilliwack, just outside Vancouver. And this man called Graham Roxburgh was the head coach of the girls' team who were doing the coaching in Canada. And it was him that had put the thought in my head that he was going to Malawi in November and December, and he'd love for me to come with him on the trip. And of course, in the summer, I thought, that sounds great, not really thinking it's going to happen. Didn't even think I'd get time off work, for example, to go out again another trip. To do this, and I went into work one day, just like I'm going today, just going to Marks and Spencer's just now, and here was my line manager just waiting at the door when I went through the door, and I said, "Oh, I've just got a question. I don't think it's possible, but if I had any time off that I could use up for a trip I've been asked to go to in Malawi." And he said, "Oh, that'll be no problem. We'll get that sorted." So that door kind of just swung open. And that's how really it came about. That I got the time off Marks and Spencer's. The other job I do with care work, that was no problem. I got that off, no problem. And so everything was set up to go to Malawi, and I flew down from Inverness on the 21st of November to, as I say, I've never been to Africa before, to a completely new experience. I just looked on it when I was travelling. It was like an adventure. And that's what it turned out to be, just like an adventure, Ali.
Did you meet all your objections when you were over there?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't fully understand it, and I probably still don't, of what they're doing. But it's the man from Canada, who the head coach of the ladies team from Canada. He's a executive director, or whatever his title, similar to that is, of this organisation called Team Up. So Team Up, as it says in the headline, basically team up with other partnerships. One other one they do is standing together. They team up, and it's working in partnership with other charities. And so they partnered up with this other organisation called Standing Together, and they're more into the farming side of things and how you get the best out of the land for the people in Africa, where the climate's actually very, very good. But yet the problems with the growing of the crops and the yields you get from the crops, obviously we associate Africa with famine times, and that's because they probably don't really know how to grow the crops properly. And so this Standing Together is behind the farming side of things, to try and get them to have better yields from their crops. And they've been showing things in the past that the Malawian people, and so they just copy the same all the time. In a good year, when you get rain in the dry season, you get the rain in the wet season, you have the hot sun in the dry season. It's ideal climate for things to grow. But obviously, when it's a poor wet season and there's no water, things don't grow so well. So that's when you get the crops don't produce a yield, and that's where a real hunger and real need for food in places like Malawi or other countries in Africa. But now this organisation are helping to get ideas and things in place to grow a lot of crops that are before they couldn't grow. So the farm that I stayed on had an example of one field with basically 5 stages of different crops growing, like banana trees, mango trees, and the staple diet of the Malawians is maize. So that's, you see them, this white powdery stuff that they make it into a paste, and that's like their staple diet. You know, that's quite a filling carbohydrate type meal. So that's a good crop as well. And obviously the normal grass. But in the past, they just used to grow the one thing, and if it came about, then they're fine, they're happy. But now that they've got these other crops growing, they've basically got all the crops grown throughout the year. So they've got they yield one thing and then have the food off it, and then something else ready after a couple of months. So they've got a continual process. So the farming side of it was really interesting, and just to help the locals, because we were based in the farm. It was a South African couple that owned the farm that we were staying on, and they've brought that ideas to the local villages, to the people, so that the estate that we were on has maybe about, I'm just saying roughly off the top of my head, but maybe 20 to 30 villages in the estate. Just wooden huts with thatched roofs and brick, but nothing really inside, no electric, no electricity, just basic, as you imagine, African lifestyle. You can imagine it. That's what it was like. And these are all and they're all taking part in this project with standing together with the people who have got the farm there. So on top of the farming side, there's all the children that are born and all the children that come through. And the mums and dads, the coaches that I was involved with, was to give them basically a coach education on activities, and the activity was football. So we did coach education just to give them different drills, different things to learn from, that they could then give their children when we're not there. And during the time we were there, we also did a tournament for under 12s, under 14, under 16. And they had these three tournaments for both boys and girls tournaments. So it's like basically 6 tournaments on dust fields, no grass in sight. I mean, I didn't see grass for 2 weeks. I haven't seen it since I come back because it's so frosty and cold here now. But it was no grass in sight. It was just dusty, brown ground, because it's right at the end of the dry season just now. And that was what they played on. Some of the balls you used are kind of makeshift balls, but we brought over balls, so they've got balls to use. We gave the coaches education. After we'd done the education in the morning, the coaches would then do it themselves, and we would just correct anything that maybe, because they were very good at copying things almost like in parrot fashion. And when they saw what we gave them, they then copied it in the afternoon with the kids when they came out of school about 3 o'clock, you see, and then they gave them the exercise, and that's the exercise they'll now do in the months ahead. Because team up, we'll go out 4 times a year. No, I won't go out 4 times a year, but there'll be 4 times during the year they go out over each point of the year. So that, they'll get help from the coaches when they go out to back up what they've been shown, what we did when we were there for the 2 weeks. So that the coach education is in place. The coaches they've got coaches, and they're called assistant coaches. It's very official, but that's because they then they actually get some, it's called kwasha, the currency. They'll get money for being a coach or an assistant coach. Okay. So we had girl coaches, lady coaches there with their babies in their arms, just doing coaching, which would be unheard of in your place or here in UK, but that's just how they do it. So these 40 or so coaches, the adults, that are coaching all the kids, which are maybe numbering about 2,000 in the villages of all the children, that's in process now. So there's football education, there's football coaching going on. On top of that, they're getting when we had the competition with the football, they also got a lunch and a drink at the break time. So, that was the kind of incentive to get them to come along. And this is all done through the charities. Let's team up, standing together, and the farm that we're based on, just having the resources from their donors and things like that to be able to provide this type of food. I mean, It was quite an eye opener to see how it works and just how needy the people were, because it was so humbling that they've just got nothing, the boys and girls and the parents, and at night time when it's dark, it's just dark. There's no lights, there's no electricity in the hut, so it's just. And so you would get up at about 4:30 in the morning when it was right just below the equator, I think Malawi is. So it would get daylight about 5 o'clock, and you just get into the habit of getting up at 5 in the morning, and then getting going in the day, and and just to see the fields. We took a couple of times. We took tours around the fields to see the different way they're layered. It's almost like when you used to do you plant potatoes and your little drill in between. And that's what they've done with all the land in the farm estate, where they've got all the prepared for the rains coming, so that when the rain comes, it will then sit in the drills, and so that the water can get directed to where it's needed to be. And then this was coming towards the end of the dry season when we were over, and just amazingly, just 2 days before we left, you could just see when we're having the under-16, the last of the competitions, we're getting towards the final, and it was at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it just got ominously dark. And you could hear the rumbles in the distance of thunder and things like that. This is just one of the first signs of the rainy season starting. And so that night, when I got home about 5-6 o'clock into the house where we were staying, the thunder and lightning was flashing, banging, and the rain was pelting off the roof. And this was the start of the rainy season, literally. And every day now, in Malawi, it should be hot and sunny, as it always has. It's always about 80 degrees, but there's always the chance of rain every day. And if they get that rain, that's where their crops will really they'll grow like almost in front of your eyes. It's so warm and hot and ideal for growing conditions. So just a whole education to me, Ali, and just a whole new experience. Wonderful. And I think, in answer to the question, the objectives for me personally were definitely met.
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic what you did, Brian, that you went over there for such a period of time. It must have been incredibly humbling to see, the kids and the way of life and the way that everything that we take so for granted, that they have to work 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as hard. Brian, while you're on, I just thought I'd quickly ask you, because obviously we're playing Celtic with the season beginning again. What's your thoughts ahead of the game? Are you feeling confident?
Yeah, confident. I mean, confident at the World Cup, which you haven't really seen a lot of it, but it's getting to see the final stages, which is exciting. But now we're back to the domestic game at the weekend, and I think going into the break, you couldn't have asked for better. Aberdeen are sitting in third in the semi-final League Cup, so really the report card's all ticked. 1 or 2 away performances, it could have been better, but you're never going to get the perfect every game's going your way. So that's as good as we could hope for. So I think going into the new season, we've had the break from the World Cup. Aberdeen have been over in America for a competition and kept their eye on that way. They've been training hard, I'm sure, and I'm looking forward not only to the Celtic game but the Rangers game as well, because I think they're definitely winnable games, tough games. And at the very least, I would hope we'll be very competitive, and we'll definitely get something out of both these games.
Brian, it's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story of the time that you were away in Malawi. Very much appreciate it. It's great to see you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Bye, mate. Brian Irvine. He is quite simply one of the nicest guys that you will ever meet. He truly is an absolute gentleman, and so many of you already have come back in for part 2. Thank you for sticking around after this morning's Gremlins. Kevin Lang has said, good morning everyone, hope we get a good result today. We'll come to that in just a second, Kevin. Good morning to you. Jason Campbell has said, it's one of the club's all-time iconic moments when Brian slotted away that penalty to win 9-8 against Celtic back in 1990. Took massive balls with all that pressure on him. We'll come to that in just a moment, Jason, with Theo Schnelders. Big Brian's been living with MS for the best part of 30 years now, says Kaiser. He certainly has, mate. It's just, as I said, he's an unbelievable human being. Rob Clark has come back on. Hi, Rob. Total respect for Brian. I'm humbled and honoured to call him a personal friend. So keep your comments coming in. Right, let's get back to the game, because Jim Goodwin has obviously given his pre-match press conference. So I picked out a quote from him. He said, Celtic, I think, have only had one defeat all season up to now. They have. The only points they've dropped were against St Mirren away from home. We have got to take a little bit of encouragement from that result. I thought St Mirren's game plan on the day was excellent. I thought they frustrated Celtic for large periods and deservedly won the game. What it proves is that they can be beaten if you get a number of things right on the day. The only thing I would say today is that the stats do not make for good reading. Aberdeen are winless in their last 18 meetings with Celtic in all competitions. Celtic are unbeaten in their last 12 league visits to Aberdeen, winning 10 of those and drawing only 2. The Dons have won each of their last 5 home league games, which is our longest run since April 2017, where we won 8 on the bounce. And the guy in the middle today is Steve McLean. If you're not getting to Pittodrie today, just to let you know, the game is 100% on. The football club tweeted about 45 minutes ago to tell everybody the game is 100% on and to be careful with the surrounding areas because it is a little bit hazardous. But that is the front cover from Dolly Digital if you can't get to the game today. So I've written a couple of things down about how I think we should approach the game today. And let me know what you think before we finish off today. Theo Schneider's is coming up in just a moment. So with the form table, if you look at the form table, we're only 3 points behind Celtic. So we're coming into it with decent form. I know we've had the break and all of that, and that could play its part. Celtic are obviously missing key players today because they're still on World Cup duty, which could work in our advantage. But Jim has said that he no longer wants to be overly negative in his approach to games. And that, for me, has got to start today. I do not want to go into this game with any sort of negative feel to our formation and negative feel to our play. I want us to get on the ball quickly and I want us to be clever today. Now, when we talk about getting right in amongst them and getting in their faces, if you watch some of the World Cup games and you look at the high press and how well it works, where they're not allowing opposition to be able to pass the ball out quickly from the back. I'm not exactly saying go gung-ho, but keep the high press within mind. But make sure then when we're not in possession that we regroup and we get back in and everybody is aware of what's going on, especially at the back. It is fundamental to how the game will go today is how we perform at the back. So we've got to win every second ball. And as I said, we have to be good in possession and out of possession as well. Tell me what you think. Right, Theo Schnelders. So, as most of you know, what I like to do is sort of mix the new with the old and all that sort of stuff. So when I was trawling through some of my old interviews, I found an interview with Theo Schnelders, which I did about 18 months ago, give or take. And we spoke about a number of things. And we did reminisce about the 1990 Scottish Cup final. And obviously, with Celtic being our opponents today, I thought you would like to see the snippet. Because his closing words to me are quite telling. So here's Theo. 1990, the Scottish Cup final, just a few months later. I'm intrigued to know, Theo, did you practice penalties in training ahead of that game?
No, not at all.
Really?
No, it was funny because it was actually also the first time. Normally, I think it was a replay.
Yes.
And then the rules were changed that it was decided extra time penalties. And then we never practiced it. The only thing is that I remember the games a couple of weeks before the final when we beat the United semis. That I remember I was writing down penalties. If Celtic was getting penalties, I was just writing them down. But the thing in my mind was that I had always a right footer is shooting across, and a left footer shoots across as well. So that was the only thing I practiced, not on the field, but for myself. If that would happen, then that's my strategy.
That moment when you save Anton Rogon's penalty and you just come just past the post and you look up at the Aberdeen fans who are all going absolutely mental, me included. That was an incredible moment What did you then feel as you watched Brian Irvine step up to take his penalty? Can you just, again, explain those emotions for us in that 30 seconds?
Actually, it's funny because also over the years, if you look at the clip, you see certain things I've never actually saw before. And I think it was last year that, and yeah, for me, it's funny, but it's not so funny if you're on the other side, but if actually see when Anton Rogan makes us run up, you see on the track behind the goal, there's someone being leading on a stretcher. He's going away on a stretcher, but he's actually looking up. And then I make the save, and then you see it's a Celtic supporter, obviously. And then you see he's trying to look up, and then he just collapsed when he misses. He goes like, oh. But yeah, the emotion was that before that Graham Watson came on, I saw the Celtic, which, well, it was Mike Galloway who started it up, winding up the Celtic supporters. And that brought me on an idea that I can do that as well. And they were behind me with the roof on top of the stand. That the noise was incredible. And then, yeah, how it must be that the noise building up. Referee walks over. It's a nightmare for a penalty taker. Actually, he helps me even more because he has to wait longer, Anton Rogan, and then make the save. Yeah, and then the noise. That's unbelievable. The noise, you never forget that. Yeah, best day of my life in football.
Top man. 1990. What a guy. Absolutely love Theo Schnelders. If you haven't already subscribed to us here at Ali Beg ABTV, I'd be very grateful if you would consider clicking on that little red button and come and joining our community here, because we are building rather nicely. So thank you again for your continued support. Couple of more notes coming in. Kaiser said Graham Watson's penalty was good that day. It certainly was. Ali Mitchell has said, come on you Reds, I think we're in for a win this afternoon. Got that feeling. Just to confirm, the game is 100% on today. If you're not going to Pittodrie, after this, I will be on the Big Saturday Football Show. It's a special between myself and Stephen Mill. So we're going on air at noon. I'll be bringing you the team news and live updates throughout the game. So if you're out and about and you want to know what's going on during the game, tune into North Sound from noon, and myself and Stephen Mill will be bringing you live updates from the game. Guys, we're all done. Thank you so much for your patience today, particularly with the fact that we had to stop and start again after the internet dropped out earlier today. So thank you for sticking around. If you are going to the game, please be safe, travel safely, enjoy the game, wrap up, and I'll see you tomorrow night for the review show. There will be a review show after the World Cup final, so we'll be coming on air around about 9 o'clock at night. Just keep an eye on my socials for that. All that's left to say is the very best of luck to the lads tonight. Don't keep anything in that dressing room. Don't show any fear. Don't show any respect. And show them how good you are. I'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy your day.